Hello, it's part 10 of the Medewi Comfy campaign commentary. Last time we took down the Saba, although they gave us some difficulties when one of their fleets unexpectedly annihilated one of my garrisons, so they took their own territory back. Then we finished them off for good, so the war in Arabia was over. We grovelled to the Roman Empire, but they wouldn't listen to anything we had to say, but we did get a satrapy from Takashila, an Indian empire, over to the east. We also got another satrapy, Rhodes, and they drew us into a big war because they were attacked by the Seleucid Empire, and now we're obliged to help them. The thing about fighting the Selucids is you don't just fight the Selucids, you fight them and their million puppet states, including a couple of big ones. And one of them happens to border us, it's Nabata in Arabia. So Arakamani, instead of going back to Africa as originally planned, is now going to swing around to the north and just march further into Arabia, and then once he's there, he will be bordering the Seleucids and may get some action that way. Lachemeses is going to bring his forces, which were gathering on the border of our ally for another betrayal operation, and start bringing them towards Jerusalem. We have long borders up there with the Seleucids that are just totally undefended. One thing we can do to aid that is to start a new army, and this is Kashta, Arakamani's son. I disbanded his forces in Arabia so I could teleport in up here to Jerusalem. And here I'm going to give him a whole load of these Jewish spearmen. They seem like a pretty decent unit, and they don't draw from our limited native population, so it's nice to use those as disposable troops. Now, as you can see, nothing much happened for a few turns and we got our force together. I guess the Seleucids weren't really ready for this fight. They're probably all off fighting Taxashila to the east, so they don't really have any armies. So that's good. It's been a lot safer than I expected. Unfortunately, that Nabatan settlement we were going for with Arakamani got captured by our allies to the east, so inconvenient. They still have another one just to the west of that. I really couldn't be bothered to go and take it. I wanted to just head north and take some Seleucid territory to start weakening them, but they wouldn't get peace with me, even though they're very much outmatched in this war. So we need to finish them off just to make sure they're not going to pull any antics. I've got this one boat over here which I'm going to recruit up with some mercenary ships because there is an Nabatan fleet nearby that I need to clear out of the way so that I can then take Lachemeses and his army over to take Nabata out, and instead I'm going to send Ozalkes to be our supporting force over near Jerusalem, so he'll team up with Kashta just in case the Seleucids do something. Now they finally started attacking us again, although they're going for Salamis, which is the least important of our territories right now, so that's nice of them. Bringing loads of ships, and the balance bar's not so far in their favour that it wouldn't seem unwinnable, but we've seen before the actual performance that our garrison units put in is so poor that I didn't even want to waste everyone's time by attempting to do something in this fight. I thought we'll probably lose either way, so I'll just take the lose on the auto-resolve, and we actually took down 2 of the enemy's ships in that auto-resolve, which I didn't expect, so that was a nice surprise. We also see Seleucid armies wandering around near the front line, but they're all busy doing something, so we aren't attacked, and we've been able to put a full stack together, and I even thought we might as well try and challenge them with it. I can set a siege up at Petra, just next to Jerusalem. The problem we'll face is the problem you face with the Seleucids in general. They're just on another technological level in comparison to us, so even their garrison forces of militia are heavily armed and well trained. We don't really have a chance against them, and putting walls in between us doesn't help either, so I'm just going to move off from that engagement and wait for Ozalkes to show up before we do anything risky. Arakamani is going to start moving west. I'm actually not going to move him down to the Nabatan place because now that I know Lachemeses is going for it, I can send him north to go after some Seleucids after all. My fleet, now with its mercenaries and supply ship in tow, is going to come down to take out this Nabatan fleet. Well, not take out, just get them out of the way. We don't really care about destroying the fleet. We just want to take their territory, and then anything they have not in that territory will disappear. In the next turn, I put the siege at Petra back, just because I thought, although we can't really win in an assault or anything like that, we can just siege them out, slowly kill them, and just force the Seleucids to do something here, so we'll leave that going. I've got this other fleet over here on the eastern edge of Arabia, and I thought I might be able to do something with this. There are Sassanid ports to the north and northwest that I could attack, but they're so heavily garrisoned and the enemy's garrison units are so good, I thought that's probably going to be impossible, and actually disbanded most of the fleet to save money. Then we can get more land units. Now some more naval action. The Selucid fleets come down to Tyrus to make an attack, and apparently they don't have enough power to take it. I didn't believe the balance bar, so I was very happy to auto-resolve that. I thought if we actually fought the battle, the enemy's high-quality naval crews would probably rip through our terrible garrison, so I'll just take that victory from the auto-resolve, thank you very much, and both of the Selucid navies sink to the bottom. A small army appears to challenge Kashta. They've only brought a few units, but of course that's all they need, because that's going to draw out the entire garrison with all of those hoplites, and we might as well not fight it. We'll just keep waiting for Ozilkis before we do anything there, as I said. Now in the next turn, Arakamani makes it to Hegra. We can set up a siege there, and his balance bar is looking pretty good, even though it's the exact same army at Petra. They have gigantic garrisons, these Selucids, for some reason. There might be a military building in this settlement as well, or something like that. But I didn't feel like making this attack. The auto-resolve would cost us a lot of men, which means I'd have to do it manually to get a good result. What I could do instead is something easier that might make that battle at Hegra go a little bit easier in the future, and that is to do this fight, take down Nabata. So once Nakametes kills these guys, he can support Arakamani. I looked at it and thought it was an auto-resolve, but our losses were almost half our army apparently, which means the balance bar is lying, so that means we'll go in and give this fight a go ourselves. The battle actually started as a naval engagement because the fleets of both sides actually clashed. A lot of the time fleets just land instantly. The AI loves to land its fleets rather than fight. But I think in this case, since both sides had about the same number of ships, they actually hung around for a bit. Or perhaps more likely, they were just trying to sail to somewhere that's behind me to land and accidentally encountered us. Either way, we've got a little bit of a naval battle going. Both sides mostly have skirmishing ships with archers and javelinmen, so going to be a lot of ranged fire going on, but there's the real power of these tiny ships. The ship ram does massive damage to hulls, and because all the ships involved are so small, they're very susceptible to being rammed. The one exception is the enemy's admiral ship here. There's a bigger one, which is going to take a whole load of hits to bring down, and the problem is that as we go in to inflict the ram damage, their crew will jump onto our then suddenly stationary ship and kill all of our crew, which is going to be pretty easy for them. That's unfortunate. The rest of the battle, a bit of a grind, because once ships have rammed each other once, they tend to get stuck. So we need to do a bit of micromanagement and trying to avoid all of our crews being annihilated by all of that close-range javelin fire as well. That would be good. Eventually we do get our ships free of the crush and can maneuver some to try and inflict more of that sweet ram damage. Here was the big one that I thought was going to take out their admiral's ship. I've got this boat on row hard mode, which makes them faster and I presume increases ram damage, maybe not. But the enemy were very annoying here. We hit them nice and square on the side, and it only took them down to 1% health remaining, and the ship doesn't start to sink until it's fully destroyed on its hull. It's not like in the older Total Wars actually, where you could start sinking once there were holes in the hull, which you can see is a problem for my ship as well, but no, they will still float, and finally get that extra tap. That's going to take down their officer there, which will demoralize the other ship, and we have them outnumbered as well, and we lost just one of our ships where most of the crew was killed and they routed away. That final ship is sunk by a bit more ramming, and it looked like a couple of their crew actually jumps onto my ship. I was trying to confirm this, and eventually I did confirm it. They are enemy crew. You can see the tooltip changes when I hover over them, so they will now be joining us in our adventures by the looks of things. My ships are just going to go and land beside the battle to go and watch what's going on. Basically, they're not going to be much use to us, and I guess those enemy crew members will come too. So indeed, there is a land battle that's been set up while I was microing those ships, and now it's time to get started with an archer attack. The enemy's archers aren't at the front of their deployment, so that means even though they have lots of archers, they can't stop us from just sniping away at some of their melee units to get this battle started. Our men taking their time about firing, but once they do, that's going to be a pretty decent rain of arrows coming down on all of these guys, including their general's unit. Very nice to thin him out, and they've got tons of generic spears, of course, who aren't going to be very good against arrows due to their low armor. Now after a while, and after killing some of them, the enemy got bored of being shot at and decided to just sally out against me. Not such a bad idea, since my forces all split up. My archers fall back and the front line prepares itself. I'm using here these shielded axemen, who I don't think I've shown before. They're something in between our medium infantry and the two-handed axe unit I've used elsewhere. Now the groups that were split off will now of course just be able to swoop in to hit the enemy from behind, so if they can't break through our main position right away, they are going to be surrounded, and our countercharge seems to do a lot of damage to them as they arrive. The enemy has lots of low quality infantry, so we can get tons of kills just hacking away at these generic spears with our axe equipped units, plus our archers can shoot into the enemy's messy formation and do more damage the whole time. We're going to come at them from behind as well, and our men will first hit them with javelins just to weaken them. Not that we need to do this, it's mostly archers back here actually, so just standing here and throwing javelins into it is probably slower than just charging and killing them normally, but I like to throw javelins just because it means guaranteed kills for no return damage. And then once we get in there, it's just an absolute mess. Our men stampede through the enemy ranks. The enemy are trying to escape from us at the same time, and it's not happening, and all of those turned rear flanks cause morale shocks, and all of those routing units routes all the stuff at the front as well. So we're just annihilating the enemy, and they're subject to the unfortunate glitch of routing through enemy units, so most of their troops are just getting wiped out there. But since this was a settlement assault, there's no point in hunting down the survivors, they'll just be deleted after the fight, so we end it right there, a decisive victory. The losses really were less than expected on our side, negligible really, and the enemy's losses ultimately complete. So with this win, I instinctively liberated the place because I assumed it was part of that region or the province off to the east here that my ally was controlling. That is not the case, I immediately realised. It's actually part of a province with the regions to the north that I am currently trying to take. So I definitely should have occupied this place rather than liberating it. That's going to reduce my control of the province quite a bit. Nice and annoying. And indeed, it's actually that region up to the north that's part of the province in the east that the Hagar have. So we'll just keep that in mind, we've learned the lesson. Now one upside is that Lakamezi, since he hasn't used up all his movement points doing an occupation, can move over right now to support Arakamani, so we don't need to leave Hegra under siege, we'll just take it instantly, no losses really because of the super balance bar advantage that'll give us, and we will be occupying this place. We want to take this province and make it our new front line, take the front line out of Africa at the very least. We noticed some Nabatan forces nearby, they're going to take attrition, so we'll just ignore them. Very lucky they weren't actually in their home settlement because that would have made that last fight a lot harder. Bactria declares war on Taxashila and we are invited to join, and I'm going to do this because I want to stay on Taxashila's good side. We're in no position to fight with Bactria of course, but Taxashila are doing us a favour most likely by fighting the Sassanids in their Eastern Empire's wars off somewhere else, so it's probably distracting one of our biggest enemies, so we'll just be nice to them. Now another war invitation, this time it's the so-and-so city-state as I called them, who we created up in Anatolia. They're attacking Rhodos, and at first I thought, that's it Rhodos, you've put me into enough trouble, I'm just going to not bother with this. But then I turned the logic around and thought, well, if I'll go to war with the entire Seleucid Empire and its puppet states to defend Rhodos, maybe I should also go to war with this one extra region. Like, on the balance of things, this won't really make a huge difference, so we'll take that war on. Next we'll make a return to Petra, since Arakamani and Lakamezis can come up from the south to join up with the forces of Kashta. This time we can make things super easy and just stack wipe the enemy with a balance bar advantage. We're taking advantage of the fact that while our forces may be inferior to theirs in an actual battle, we can still win by not fighting battles by using auto-resolves, which tend to be very fair in spreading out losses among your units, so that when you then replenish, you will quickly get back to full strength very evenly, and ultimately wins like this come at no cost whatsoever. It's a bit less effective in Divide et Impera, since the population system means you can't always replenish, but if we can, that'll just be a new free city. And I was noting how we've now got these two fortified cities on a nice choke point that will stop the Seleucids going into Africa, so this will form a pretty steady front line, although we do still have Tyrus out there, although the Seleucids have it surrounded currently with various forces coming from various directions. And they are going to actually go for it in the end turn sequence, coming in with a fleet and an army from the north, going to lead the attack with the fleet for some reason. Balance bar just non-existent. Our guys are still damaged from the previous auto-resolve we took at Tyrus. I can take a chance to look at the enemy's army. It's a real mix. It has like various super elite units and some terrible ones like the levied hoplites. I say terrible, they're still better than most of the stuff that we have, but relatively terrible. Anyway, we'll just lose that battle since there's nothing we can do, and the Selucids are going to take Tyrus as a result of that. So our front line has now immediately moved to the position I thought looked like a good front line, so I guess that's nice for us. We've got a good fortified set of cities to work with. Now some bad news. The thorax reforms have gone through. This is the reform period that turns the Hellenic factions into Romans, basically. They all get legionary troops. So it's a late game thing, but things happen out of order because of the different turns per year of Divide et Impera. So now not only do we have Roman legionaries to the west, we've got Hellenic legionaries who could be showing up, and if anyone saw my series Massalia Tales, you would have seen that those guys are pretty powerful and get the work done, and the Selucids can probably recruit them once they've researched that, so it would be nice to get this war over quickly. And on the subject of getting wars over, our war with the so-and-so city-states comes to an end right away because they don't want to be at war with us, so I can get them to pay me to end the war and get trade back. They actually offered more money than I can demand from them because of the weird diplomacy limitations in Rome too. It would have been better for me to accept their deal rather than come back with changes to the deal because I couldn't have as much money. Anyway, because Rhodes was my satrapy, the original war is actually ended, so that entire thing ended peacefully and much to our advantage, so I was rewarded for sticking with Rhodes in that little conflict. Now I've brought my tiny fleet up towards Mesopotamia just to be annoying because the Selucids are trading out of this port so I can blockade it. The fleet has no chance of doing anything else, but it'll just deny the Selucids some income. That'll be good. Now I remembered that the Hagar aren't actually at war with the Selucids, so I started trying to call them in. The whole problem with this war is that while I have a lot of allies, none of them joined the war because technically I was going into a war that was started by Rhodos, or between Rhodos and the Seleucids, so that it doesn't call your next degree of separation allies into such wars. So if I want them to help me, I have to ask them separately, and none of them will want to go to war with the Seleucid Empire, so that's going to be a problem. All of that territory, which is sitting in our own provinces for the most part, is not adding to our power in the war, essentially. And we'll see if that comes to anything. Maybe we can convince them to join the wars later. For now, I noticed that the Seleucids had immediately abandoned Tyrus with their force and just left their fleet to defend it, so I thought we may actually be able to sneak up with this Arakamani Kashta father-son team and take it back while they're not there. Now I'm also moving Ozilkeys east, as we saw just now, to take this settlement, but it didn't really work. For some reason, over the end turn sequence, he didn't get his movement points back. I'm not totally sure what caused this, maybe because he's in the desert and there's some sort of mod-based event going on, but his lack of movement points means he can actually barely move at all and can't take the settlement that's now right in front of him. So that's going to be a bit annoying. We'll wait until next turn and see what happens. I was confused. I thought maybe I hadn't ended the turn or something, but our other guys all have their movement points back, so yes, I just don't really know what's going on. Anyway, we're going to go and hit Tyrus because indeed there's no force there, and the sooner we hit it, the easier it'll be because they won't have restored the garrison. So we can just step in, take a super easy auto-resolve, take the place back, and at the same time destroy their fleet, which will be forced to join the fight. So that all went very well, no particular noteworthy losses. And we do spot a Seleucid army up there to the north. I don't think it's the same one that took it, but they're recruiting something nearby, so we'll have to keep an eye out. I'm going to put Kashta in ambush stance for no reason. I thought it might draw the Seleucids into doing something stupid if they didn't know that Kashta was there. They might just send one army over and then we can double team it or something like that. I paid a massive amount of money to get Hagar to join the war with the Seleucids, and I'm hoping this is going to be worth it, because if they actually make attacks, they have access into the Seleucid core at Mesopotamia, where they can head up even towards their capital, and that's going to be pretty distracting, even if it doesn't do much damage. But the Seleucids gather up a whole load of armies from all over the place and throw them all at Tyrus. I didn't realise they had so much stuff right here. They could even have brought in even more things from other places. You can see they've got stuff in the background. So this is a little naive from Arakamani, it seems. We've been forced to face all these guys, and because I'm still in the settlement, I have to fight it. I'm not allowed to retreat. If I had just moved out of the settlement before doing this, we would have been able to retreat from this battle. A little annoying how that works, because you could still walk out the settlement as the enemy come in, but whatever. This is going to be the decisive battle then. We're completely outclassed by the enemy, and we're outnumbered, but at least we do have Arakamani on our side, and he's won fights like this before. We'll look at it next time.